U.S. stocks taking a tumble over trade war fears on Tuesday. The Nasdaq losing almost 0.3%. The Dow recorded its sixth straight losing session, dropping more than 1%, and the S&P falling 0.4%. Joining me now is Dan McClory, Managing Director and Head of Equity Capital Markets and Head of China for Bowstead Securities. Dan, always good to have you.
Thanks, Michelle.
And Dan, I just want to get your reaction on some news after the bell. GE, General Electric, being kicked out of the Dow Jones Industrial Average after more than a century of being a member and being replaced by the Walgreen Boots Alliance. What's your reaction?
Well, it's just a further decline of GE. You know, they've had debt that spiraled out of control. They've sold off subsidiaries. They're trying to reinvent and really rediscover themselves. But, you know, the financial markets aren't going to stand for that, and they need to get with the next crop of up-and-comers.
An end of an era there for GE. All right, let's move on. And markets are reacting to this intensifying concerns over trade wars. But some of the most successful investors in the world, Warren Buffett, Paul Tudor Jones, Lloyd Blankfein, they're all saying that this is going to sort itself out, that this is an overreaction, and it's just part of the negotiations, that it'll all be all right in the end. What's your position?
I completely agree with that. I think it's a tremendous overreaction. I think what we're hearing from political establishment, who's used to protocol and diplomatic relations, is things aren't done this way. This is too abrupt. This is too disruptive. But anyone who's been in business, anyone who's negotiated, and certainly anyone like Donald Trump, knows this is exactly how you garner an advantage. You get leverage. You get chips on your side of the table, which for so many years we just never had.
Well, China has shipped around $505 billion worth of goods to the U.S. last year. That's compared to $130 billion worth of goods that the U.S. has sent to China. So it stands to reason that China has more to lose here.
A lot more to lose. And if you just want to look at it pragmatically with the trade war, you know, they're going to run out of ammunition a lot faster than we are, because, you know, we can put up 200 billion worth of tariffs and they can put up 50, and, you know, they can do that about twice and it's over.
And therefore, there is the concern that they may retaliate in other ways, that they could take action against U.S. services, for example, if not physical products, and also potentially take action against U.S. companies doing business in China. What do you expect? Well,
I think the latter is much different from the former. I think in the former, you know, education and tourism are about $1 trillion export a year from China, massive. And the U.S. is about a third of that. Probably more on the education front. So that's definitely an area in services that could have an effect on the U.S. In terms of taking action against U.S. companies in China, that would be so injurious to China's positioning in the world and to literally its relations with every single other country outside of China that it would just be a step that they would never take.
So if China deliberately targets U.S. firms, it does more to damage itself because it's promoting itself as a hub of business and trying to attract investment.
That's right.
But let's look at the tourism question, because in the past, when China was upset with South Korea over agreeing to have the THAAD anti-missile system deployed, the U.S. anti-missile system deployed, China took action against South Korea tourism, and it put a ban on group tours to South Korea. We just said what a big, how integral Chinese tourism is to the U.S. sector. Do you see China making that kind of move?
Possibly. I mean, if it comes down to it, and again, they run out of bullets with, you know, trade because they don't have enough because there's such a massive deficit, then yes, they could actually do that. It would cause disruption. It would cause concern. It would also start to destabilize the type of country that they've attempted to create, which is allowing for people more or less to be able to go places and do things. And now all of a sudden, I think they would have a lot of negative feedback from their own people as much as they would from the host countries like U.S., who would be cut off from that tourism industry.
Are you concerned, as someone that is the head of China and constantly working with American and Chinese companies, how do you view these trade tit-for-tat intensifications or flashpoints?
I've got to tell you, Michelle, I'm in the camp, like you mentioned earlier, where I don't think all of these tariffs are going to come to pass. I think they're going to get to a point where it's going to trigger action. And I also think and know that the Chinese respect a strong leader. They like someone, and I'm talking about the grassroots people in China. They like someone like Trump, who stands up, who's an entrepreneur, who's a business person, who's principled, who really is not afraid. And I think that that's also going over pretty well. You know, in China, they talk about how hard people work and how much they've achieved, and they've coined this new term. They call it the 996. You work from 9 to 9 6 days a week. And they said Trump is 007, which is you work from midnight to midnight, 7 days a week. This guy just works all the time and applies himself. And so, I mean, I think he's in good standing, and I think he's got to use these chips to his advantage and engineer a deal.
So you feel like the people of China support the president of the U.S., even if he's against maybe their own interests?
I think they support his strength. I think they support his sticking to a cause. I think they support him taking maybe even irrational or unpopular action, yes. If it affects them ultimately in their pocketbook, it'll be a different story. I don't think it's going to get to that point.
All right, Dan, great analysis. Appreciate it. Dan McClory, thanks for being with us.